You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host today. I just had Rob Dew, the news director, come in and say, can you please tell everybody that it's personal, not personal, which is what Josh Earnest keeps saying as he's squirming in front of the reporters, asking, did you know that she deleted 30,000 emails? Did you know she had a private server? This guy is squirming, and of course, I don't even know what a personal email is, but he's got, I guess, a bit of a lisp, but Rob Dew is kind of upset. I'm upset about a lot of aspects of this, and the thing I'm most upset about is the fact that, just as we've seen over and over again, throughout one administration, Republican and Democrat as the other, but especially in this administration, I don't think anything is going to happen to her whatsoever. Now, I want to take your phone calls on the issue of medical marijuana. I might take some of your phone calls. I want to cover some news before we go to our interview. It's going to be coming up in the second, not this next segment, but the one just before the bottom of the hour. We're going to be talking to David Simpson. We'll have him for a short period of time. I want to take your calls on the subject of medical marijuana. And I want to cover some news before we do that. That number is 800-259-9231. Again, we're going to limit that to that subject of medical marijuana. But before we get to that subject, there's some other news. And, of course, there's been a lot of news about this letter that was put together, sent to Iran by Republican senators. And as the New York Times points out, this was put together by a new senator, Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas. He is the youngest member of the Senate. He's only 37 years old. He's been a senator for exactly 65 days, the New York Times points out. And he's a veteran. He served in Iraq in 2006. They say while Mr. Paul and Mr. Cruz influenced the Tea Party and the Libertarian wing of their party, Mr. Cotton personifies a wave of Republican newcomers to the Senate who back a hawkish, interventionist foreign policy. And then, of course, you've got Mr. Neocon himself, Bill Kristol of the Weekly Standard, saying that he's ahead of the mainstream Republicans on foreign policy thinking. No, he's not. He is decades behind Republicans on foreign policy thinking. Republicans are waking up to the nonsense of perpetual warfare, and he's trying to bring us back there. Of course, Bill Kristol is the editor of Weekly Standard, and the way you spell that is W-E-A-K-L-Y, Weekly Standard. Now, Tom Cotton, who put that letter together and got the senators to sign it, is someone who basically saying, look, you know, Iran, once Obama leaves, we're going to rule as dictators as well, and so we're not going to honor any treaties or anything that were signed. So you just forget about this. Well, whether or not you agree with the content of this, the interesting thing about it was immediately after launching this effort, according to firstlook.org, this is their headline, immediately after launching effort to scuttle Iran deal, Senator Tom Cotton goes to meet with defense contractors. Yes, within 24 hours, he went to an off-the-record and strictly non-attribution event with the National Defense Industrial Association. That's the lobbyist for the military-industrial complex. It's composed of the executives from the largest military contractors. And, of course, Cotton is auditioning for being the leader of the neocon, the neoconservative warmongering wing of the Republican Party, strongly advocating higher defense spending and a more aggressive foreign policy. Yes, that's exactly what we need. And if you want to know what's behind all of this kerfuffle about Iran and this treaty, it's because they're trying to get a war going no matter what. Now, as I pointed out in the last hour, I was very happy to see Rand Paul call out Jeb Bush on his hypocrisy about medical marijuana. I'm not happy to see what Rand Paul is doing in terms of trying to court the neocon left. Reason points out that he wants to draw up new lines for Kurdistan and promise them a country. This is something he's not saying if they get their independence, we will recognize them. No, he's saying we need to literally remap the Middle East. And they point out at Reason That didn't work too well for the British, and we're not going to be any better at it. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We'll take your calls on medical marijuana. 800-259-9231. To legalize medical marijuana, or legalize marijuana, period. Not just medical marijuana. We're going to take your calls on medical marijuana. But David Simpson's approach is novel in the sense that it doesn't impose restrictive regulations or taxes. It doesn't create some kind of a spider web of regulations to entrap people. No, he takes the approach that it's something that God made, and God did not make a mistake, and we need to address the behavior of people separately from these particular things. And of course, there's a constitutional argument to be made as well. We needed to have a constitutional amendment to prohibit alcohol. Everybody agreed with that when they passed the 18th Amendment. When they passed the 21st Amendment to repeal that, everybody understood that the power to ban us owning, possessing, or using anything was never given to the federal government. And of course, under the 9th and 10th Amendment, if we don't give them, under the 10th Amendment, the express power to do something, they don't have it. But of course, they don't operate under that premise anymore. They now operate on the premise that they have all power, all of our rights belong to them, and we are periodically granted privileges and exemptions. But that's not the way that it was. And we have two of about 10% of the amendments practically pointing out that they don't have the authority to ban anything like alcohol or marijuana or any of the other drugs. They simply don't have the constitutional authority to do it. But we need to walk this back however we can. I really applaud him on his effort. And it's very important because he makes a statement, an argument from a conservative Christian standpoint. And so that's something we all need to understand so we can talk to that group of people who are the biggest cheerleaders, the biggest supporters of this failed war on drugs. Before I go to your calls, though, I want to let you know that we have DNA Force on special for the first time. It's a big discount, 30% off, unprecedented. Our competitors are already 2 to 3 times the price that we charge. Some are charging up to $600 for similar formulas. But right now at InfoWarsLife.com, you can get DNA Force at 30% off, under $100 for the first time ever. That's 30% off on DNA Force at InfoWarsLife.com. I want to take your calls. He's going to be joining us just before the bottom of the hour, David Simpson is, to talk about his bill. And I want to get your phone calls before and after on the topic of medical marijuana. Again, that number is 800-259-9231. Let's go first to Dr. Kelly in California. Go ahead, Doctor.
Hey, David Knight, it's great to talk to you. Thank you for fighting the good fight. And I just wanted to talk about it's neuroprotective, it's cardioprotective. It is, meaning protects the heart and the mind. It is anti-cancer. The United States government has known this since 1942. They have the ability to isolate it, to concentrate it, to purify it, and to create what they call, in their own words, hashish. And they knew that it was anti-cancer in 1942. That's Dr. Adams. And in the Trends for Pharmacological Sciences, there's a beautiful pie chart that shows the differences between the CBD, the cannabidiol, the non-psychotropic properties, and the THC. And I'd love to either be on the show or have you get somebody there from ASA, Americans for Safe Access.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
make sure you give the your phone number to John Harmon. Hang on after we're finished talking because you sound very informed. Yeah, people need to understand that there is a corporate agenda behind this. You just talked about the pharmaceutical competition, the fact that we have pharmaceutical companies that don't like the competition from something that is safe, effective, and that they don't own. But of course, there was a lot of competition also in the with hemp against the cotton and textile industry and many different industries. And so they shut that down to a large degree to protect entrenched big business. But there's also a UN agenda to try to control the population with this war on drugs. As I point out, that started in 1961. So there's a lot of different aspects to this war on drugs, especially to marijuana. Marijuana is the one that is very easy for people to understand because it is so powerful medicinally. Thank you. Was there anything else you wanted to say, Dr. Kelly? You're very informed.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly touch on that. Fortunately, I will be getting to volunteer at the Truth Tour, where Dr. Billy DeMoss is going to be hosting. Alex will be there. Anthony will be there. Dr. Group will be there. And so it will be a fascinating, amazing time to be alive in this world, as Uncle Ronnie used to say when I thought he was a good guy.
Yeah,
and,
you and me both.
I'm so stoked to hear that you guys are discussing this and that it's on a national and a worldwide level. And Europe didn't come along and get their patent until 1991. But the reason that the pharmaceutical industry is so against this, and thank you for this little bit of forum here, is that you can't have diabetes, you can't have psoriasis, you can't have pain, you can't have bacteria, you can't have anxiety, you can't have psychosis, you can't have any of these horrible, awful conditions in the body that has adequate levels of the CBDs in it. And again, it's non-psychotropic. It's from the industrial hemp. And so that has an amazing twofold, set of properties to it, to where it is a food, it is a fuel, it is a textile, it is a paint, it is paper, it is... it's really incredible. And then going back to Genesis, God created the sprouting green grass 3 days before the cow came onto the planet, and then he created man,